On its roster, the following is a test of ship's whistle and general alarm. Please disregard.
Hi, everyone. We're about to hear a whistle and a follow-up.
Now, test is complete. Please heed all further alarms.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special live stream celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Arcturus cruise of 1925. I'm Kate Clemmer, and today we honor a century of discovery and creativity and the people who contributed to both science and art aboard the Arcturus. A special thank you to NOAA Fisheries, the Office of Marine Aviation Operations, the Ocean Exploration Cooperative Institute, and the Inner Space Center at the University of Rhode Island. The Arcturus expedition of 1925 marked an important chapter in ocean exploration. So today we're going to explore their legacy and see how art and science intersect and hear from special guests from the Wildlife Conservation Society. So to give a little bit of context, the Wildlife Conservation Society is a global organization that protects wildlife and wild places in 12 priority regions across the world. And they also manage 4 zoos across New York City and the New York Aquarium. And I want to make an extra special shout out to the New York Aquarium. If it wasn't for them, a lot of this wouldn't have been able to put on, especially from the archival footage from the Wildlife Conservation Society for the Arcturus mission. So thank you so much for being such a special partner to NOAA and being able to really deep dive and tell this incredible story. So joining me now is our Executive Director of WCS Library and Archives from the Wildlife Conservation Society, here to share insights about the historic 1925 Arcturus expedition and the people whose contributions shaped this voyage. So welcome, Madeline, and thank you for being here.
Hi, Kate. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we're super excited to learn more about this mission and super grateful to have this archival footage to show everybody. So to get us started, can you briefly explain what the 1925 Arcturus expedition was and why it's significant in the history of ocean exploration?
Sure. Well, the Arcturus expedition was the first official oceanographic expedition undertaken by WCS's Department of Tropical Research. And to understand why it mattered, I'll give you just a little bit of context here. So WCS, the Wildlife Conservation Society, was founded in 1895 with a focus on protecting wildlife, promoting the study of zoology, and developing a new zoo for New York, which became the Bronx Zoo. WCS's Department of Tropical Research was created by the Bronx Zoo's first curator of ornithology, William Beebe, who believed in the importance of studying animals in their natural habitats and helped to shape the discipline that we really know today as field ecology. And you can see him here in this photo. Prior to the Arcturus expedition, the Department of Tropical Research's work had really focused on terrestrial wildlife. But by the 1920s, they were becoming increasingly interested in turning this ecological lens that they had developed on marine species. These stories aren't really widely known today, but at that time, Beebe and the Department of Tropical Research were quite famous, and the expedition created a huge amount of media buzz. The New Yorker magazine, and it's actually the very first issue of the New Yorker, speculated that it could be one of the world's most important voyages of discovery. So really ambitious language there. And there were also newspapers of the time that went wild with these headlines about giant squid and lost treasures. But in fact, the purpose of the expedition, which lasted for 6 months, was to explore the wildlife of the Sargasso Sea, the Humboldt Current, and the Galapagos Islands. And some of that work went as planned. They came back with records of dozens of new species, but those lofty goals to explore the Sargasso Sea and the Humboldt Current didn't quite pan out as expected. So they decided, in an effort to add value to the expedition, to tack on another stop and to stay for 4 days and 4 nights in the Hudson Canyon, which had not previously been explored in any meaningful way before that time.
Wow. So what did they find when they were out in the Hudson Canyon?
Yeah, well, they emerged from that work just absolutely blown away by the diversity of species that they observed, from fish that they thought only lived in the tropics to deep sea stars. And you see some of these images. Oh, they're the deep sea stars. Some of these images here. What was really especially impressive to them was just how close these unusual species were to New York City. Beebe later writes about this work, and his astonishment at the proximity of this wildlife to New York City is really made clear by the fact in that nearly every paragraph he stresses that this incredible wildlife exists just 100 miles from New York City, or just off New York's doorstep, or my favorite one is just 30 leagues from Broadway. And I recently had the privilege of getting to accompany WCS's New York Seascape team out to the canyon, where they were focusing on sharks. And that phrase 30 leagues from Broadway was just ringing through my head the whole time. As you know, Kate, the Hudson Canyon is such a magical place that feels both a world away from New York City, but also so close. And when you're out there on a boat, you look out onto this vast, expansive space that might give the impression of being empty, but it really doesn't take much to see just how busy those waters are, both ecologically and economically too. So throughout the day in the far off distance, we could see commercial and recreational fishing vessels. And then throughout the day, we also got to see the vibrancy of the canyon's wildlife, from a tiny sargasso crab who we saw making his way from weed to weed, to bottlenose dolphins that were slicing through the waves, to short-fin mako sharks. And we even got to see a manta ray, which was really incredible.
Wow, that is really incredible to hear. Just the way you're telling the story too. It's just so exciting to hear about what happened 100 years ago, and then even your experience going out into the Hudson Canyon. So I know one of the other significant aspects of the Arcturus expedition was that it included women. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so one of the most groundbreaking aspects of this expedition is the fact that 6 of these 17 Department of Tropical staff members were women. And again, for some context, this was just unheard of at this time. We're talking about a time where women in science was rare, and women on research expeditions were practically taboo. In fact, there was a longstanding superstition that women on boats brought bad luck. So the press had an absolute field day with all of this. There were articles that joked that explorers like Da Gama and Marco Polo were going to be rolling in their graves. But, you know, these women weren't just along for a ride. They were there to do serious scientific work. And I think what really drove home for me just how unusual all of this was actually hearing, I think through you, Kate, from a retired NOAA staff member who said that even in the 1970s, she was discouraged from doing ocean research because she was a woman. So I think it really can't be understated just how bold and special it was that these women were out there doing this work in 1925.
Yeah, I agree. And it's incredible to see the footage that we have in the photographs. It just really makes that impact so much more. So who were some of the women involved in this expedition, and what kind of science contributions did they make?
Well, all of these women are completely fascinating, but I'll just highlight a few of them for us today. First is Marie Fish, the perfectly named Marie Fish. She started her career, there you see her, she started her career with the U.S. Fisheries Bureau, and she later did pioneering work for the U.S. Navy on marine bioacoustics. She also helped actually to establish the marine biology and oceanography programs at the University of Rhode Island with her husband, Charles. But what was really special about her work during this expedition, you're seeing some of this research here, was that she became the first person to collect and identify the eggs of the American eel. So this is a mystery that had eluded scientists for ages, and she does this during this expedition. Another really interesting member of the Department of Tropical Research was Ruth Rose, who you see here. She had participated in previous Department of Tropical Research expeditions, and she wore many hats. She was an artist, she was a lab assistant, she was a press agent, she was a historian, and she actually co-wrote with William Beebe the popular account of the expedition called the Arcturus Adventure. It was a bestseller. I should have mentioned too, she also did helmet diving too, as you can see there. This experience as part of these expeditions really lays the groundwork for the next turn in her career. She goes on to become a screenwriter for some Hollywood blockbusters, including perhaps one of the best known films of all time, King Kong. And then finally, just a couple of other women I'll mention here too are Isabel Cooper and Helen T. Van, who were scientific artists with the expedition. You can see Isabel Cooper here. In 1925, of course, color photography and underwater photography were really in their earliest infancy. So these highly skilled artists, Isabel Cooper and Helen T. Van, were absolutely crucial to documenting the species that the group was encountering on this expedition. And as you saw from those illustrations before, they're absolutely beautiful, but they were also vital to communicating this science from the Department of Tropical Research too.
Wow. In what ways did these women's contributions kind of ripple outward, and what's their legacy like today?
Yeah, well, I love this question. I think it can really be answered on a few different levels. I think on one level, there are these tangible contributions in the form of the scientific discoveries that they made, their research outputs, both the research publications like what you're seeing here, that the scientists were producing for technical audiences, and also the scientific illustrations which served as documentation. But then I think there's also this other level, and maybe even more meaningful one, and that's the attention that this work generated among popular audiences. So their work appeared to the public in pretty direct ways, like in popular publications of the era that featured the illustrations, as well as in maybe more indirect ways, like informing these Hollywood screenplays of the era. But really, as a whole, all coming together to help shape public perceptions about marine species and to inspire an interest in them at the time, too. And then finally, I think we also can't underestimate the power of their visibility on this trip, too. So with all of this media attention, I think it's easy to imagine the influence that this could have on young girls who are seeing these women in these really central roles. We have some footage here of Isabel Cooper doing some helmet diving while she's painting underwater too. And seeing these images, this kind of representation, of course, can ripple out for generations. I should also say too that this is a legacy that WCS deliberately continues on today through its Career Lattice program, which supports career development programming, in part to expand representation in STEM roles.
It's incredible. This footage is amazing. I just even like just taking it in and looking at the footage with the sea lions and her.
So there's Ruth Rhodes hanging out with some sea lions during the expedition. And this is all footage that we hold in the Wildlife Conservation Society archives. And we're fortunate to get some support from the Council of Library and Information Resources last year to be able to digitize.
Wow, Madeline, thank you so much for your insights and sharing this beautiful archive with us, and hoping bringing much more traction for the public to know that, you know, these resources are now living on this YouTube page, and people can go back and watch this and learn about the legacy and the history that WCS has brought to us today. And then even hearing that we're out in Hudson Canyon right now doing similar things, you know, looking for deep sea species, collecting coral samples, having an artist on board here with us to recreate some of that initial artwork with pen to paper and colored pencils. So it's just really incredible that we get to hear about those legacies today while actually being out in Hudson Canyon. So we're actually going to bring you back for Q&A. So this is just a reminder for everyone, kind of like how we've been doing. Please put your questions in the chat, and we'll go through them at the end of our segment. We've got two other guests that are going to be joined with us today, so we've got a lot more to go through. So we're going to say bye to Madeline now, but she'll be back. Thank you so much again, Madeline.
Thanks, Kate.
So as we've been exploring the legacy of the 1925 Arcturus cruise, it's amazing to see how these stories from a century ago can still inspire us today. So we're now going to be joined with artist Anita Glesta, where she's going to showcase some of her artwork and talk through intentions and process. So welcome, Anita.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Good to be here, and I'm really honored to be able to join NOAA and to be working with the Wildlife Conservation Society to mark the 100th anniversary of the Arcturus discovery of the Hudson Canyon. And always inspired by what Maddie has shown us. It really is remarkable to think both of the discovery of this incredible phenomena, basically in the backyard of New York City, just 100 miles offshore, and of these remarkable women who did a lot of creative and inspiring work. So thank you for that. I'm also not actually aboard a vessel right now because the weather has been uncooperative. And so as intended, I'm actually by the ocean on Fire Island, but in a few weeks, I'll be able to go out and explore as well before the weather becomes too rough. I guess I'll talk a little bit about this incredible opportunity to work with Wildlife Conservation Society, some of the footage that NOAA collects, and some of the archival footage to put together what I consider to be a contemporary translation of the marine life that's seen at the in the Hudson Canyon. So to give you a sense of my approach, I'm going to explain what I do. And many of my projects are in public spaces, engaging communities directly. My mediums range from painting and sculpture to video and animation and sound, and they're more often than not engaging the public space is a major concern of my work. This was on 80-foot sidewalk in Red Hook, Brooklyn, in front of the Brooklyn Public Library, and it was an homage to Hurricane Sandy, which 5 years prior affected deeply that neighborhood. And so the experience of being able to walk on this fish gives an understanding more of our proximity to water. It grew out of an invitation to participate in the first climate change conference in Copenhagen in 2009. And this work that I did for that was on how climate change affects women in the developing world. And at that time, I realized that the streets of Manhattan, when I came back, were clearly just arteries that connected the Hudson River and the East River and eventually to the ocean. And so I began to project fish on the sidewalk in 2013, and it later became a traveling work throughout the world wherever I believe there was a strong relationship of the waterfront to possible flooding, actually. But I also am very interested in our internal physiology and how our bodies move automatically. We're kind of like cars with our feet on the pedal, unaware of the mechanisms at work until something goes wrong. And this curiosity led me to pursue research and a fellowship in neuroscience, which explored how the vagus nerve, which is the largest nerve in our body, can be regulated to reduce anxiety through moving image art. And one outcome of Unnerved was that it was commissioned by the Big Anxiety Festival in Melbourne, Australia, and was an outdoor public installation in a downtown plaza. And it invited people through color and a depiction of the internal system to be a vehicle of communication to understand the science of our physiology and really think about what exists under the surface, not unlike what exists under the surface of our oceans that we rarely think about. But there's a whole universe beneath our skin and a universe beneath the ocean surface. So this is a little bit of seeing what it was like in a big plaza to watch this animation. It's a little hard to see the details of it, but it depicts our body. And the curiosity that I have for this upcoming expedition was really sparked by a passage that Maddie Thompson shared with me when I visited the Bronx Zoo and saw the archives. And it was William Beebe and Ruth Rose's archives that I heard a beautiful passage which was about a fish changing color that William Beebe perceived. And it was an observation that would have been dismissed as anthropomorphism, but right now we kind of look at it differently because he gave attribution to changing color of fish to their moods. And I'm going to play a little bit of that right now.
At times, but I am certain never through fear, he turned a strong saffron yellow, while at the approach of death, as weakness seized upon fins and gills, the little spectrum palette of his body was slowly dimmed, and a veil of silvery gray dawn over all his scales. Through every pigmental vicissitude, every color emotion, only his golden eve and scarlet tail remained unchanged. This little Joseph of the sea was one of the greatest delights, and in his scant 2 inches I saw and respected what to me typified fearlessness, dignity, poise, adaptation, besides incredibly kaleidoscopic beauty.
So I combined my own animations with some of the drawings by the artists on board. And of course, that was me talking over the wonderful passage by William Beebe. And so looking ahead at what I'll be doing with NOAA and with the scientists from the Wildlife Conservation Society, I'll be creating a multimedia installation that will intertwine the history, the exploration, and the discoveries of this undercharted underwater world. And this is going to integrate recorded sounds, interpretive animations, paintings, and will also honor, of course, the women artists who joined the Arcturus expedition 100 years ago. And like the women artists on board the Arcturus, my work aims to invite a broad public to reconsider both scientific achievements and the essential role of creativity in advancing knowledge. Their legacy reminds us that inclusivity is crucial to shaping the future of science and art, especially as climate change and the environmental degradation threatens our oceans. And upon returning from the expedition, I'm going to produce a multimedia installation and a short film that's going to weave together the discovery and artistic interpretation and the urgent importance of protecting the vibrant ecosystems of New York City's own backyard. And I'm especially excited to learn how to speak whale, to begin understanding the nuanced languages whales use with one another, and to share these forms of communication with a wider audience. My goal isn't to solve the mysteries of the ocean, but it is to draw attention to its wonder, to offer glimpses into a world that is both astonishingly foreign and deeply connected to our own. So I think it's amazing to think about this parallel universe while we're on land, and that there is this incredible place that we can think about, listen to, and perhaps be able to look at more closely, thanks to some of the imagery that we're being given right now. Noah, thank you.
Wow, Anita, what powerful pieces. And thank you for bringing history and art together in such a meaningful way, and also bringing in science as well. Like, it's such a beautiful marriage of all 3 things, especially from what we got to hear about today in the Arcturus. I'd actually love to hear more from you about your inspiration and process. Can you tell us what drew you to the story of the Arcturus expedition and how you approached turning it into this creative project you kind of spoke about?
Well, when I learned, actually, through a talk from the aquarium from Noah Chestnut about this incredible, deep world that was just outside of New York City, I thought, this is really remarkable. And I often think that what scientists and artists share is not only the interest and curiosity of, in general, in their temperaments, but also with phenomenon. And so this struck me, as it does to all of you scientists, that this is a particular kind of phenomenon that I, being an artist who works a lot in the public, would like to share. And so that initially was what garnered my interest. And then I was able to go to actually meet Madeline Thompson and see the archives and listen to the stories. And I was blown away, as I'm sure everybody who sees these images are, by how extraordinary this story is in itself. And, you know, there are so many other different kinds of stories of innovation by women artists, which I'm not going to go into right now, but I think that this is a vast exploration of that links our, what is beautiful about sharing the planet as humans with marine life. And so I do feel that I have a role to be able to integrate these stories, your explorations, the history, and then interpret it as these women artists did, as a translator of the science. I hope.
Wow.
I'm
Thank you so
honored.
much, Anita. You're so poetic. So just you talking about the work and the art, it makes me so excited to see what you're going to put together when you go out to the canyon for yourself with WCS and kind of learn from them as well. So thank you so much again. We're going to bring you back for Q&A. But for now, we're going to say bye to Anita, and we're actually going to hear from our next guest, who is Matt McIntosh. So throughout this research cruise, NOAA artist Matt McIntosh has been capturing the science, the ship, the spirit of exploration through his artwork. His pieces don't just reflect what's happening out here at sea, but they help us see oceanography from a new perspective. So we're actually going to take a look at some of Matt's work and hear from him about how art and science come together on this expedition.
Hi, I'm Matt McIntosh, and I'm the artist on board, and it's a huge privilege to be on board, not only because they made room for me, but also because it's a huge honor to be here 100 years after the Arcturus mission. And I'm here to do a couple different things. I'm drawing a little bit. I'm using color pencils, which I haven't used for a while, kind of like I said, as a nod to the mission 100 years ago. You know, they used pencil, pen, paint brushes. The whole reason they brought artists on board was so that they could show the colors of the different creatures that they were bringing up. They only had black and white photography back then. And so I'm just gathering a ton of content while I'm here. I'm drawing, I'm taking photographs, doing some time lapses. I've done some projects before about deep sea critters, specifically a whale fall, and I've spent hours and hours and hours studying some of this ROV footage from the West Coast, the Pacific, but there's something about it happening live. I knew from a young age I really liked art, and then once I got to middle school, we found out that I had dyslexia, so it made sense. I would say dyslexia is kind of on a spectrum. It's different for everybody. For me, specifically, I have very hard time comprehending words when they're written. I've gotten way better. I'm way faster than I ever was, but I was always, you know, a grade or two behind everybody else. And I also realized that I did not like learning that way. What I liked, and I found out I liked learning, was like watching documentaries or watching TV where they would explain science or explain history, and they would do it with visuals. I want to do right by, you know, the ones that came before me, and we're doing the same sort of thing, like from the Arcturus mission. You know, they documented what was going on, so I want to be able to document what's going on just like they did and do just as good of a job as they did, because what they did was amazing. Hi.
To see Matt's artwork up close and hear a little bit about what his story is and how he became the artist he is today. So now I have Matt here live with me. Say hi, Matt.
Hi, everybody.
So Matt's going to take us around his little workstation and show us the type of art that he's been doing, whether that's been with photos, a drone, with pen and paper, colored pencils. But on our way, Matt actually wants to point out a few of his artwork that's actually on board the ship. How did that make you feel when you walked onto the ship and saw it?
I mean, that made me really proud and happy. As soon as I got on the ship, this is pretty much one of the first places I went to. It was the wet and dry lab. And as I was turning the corner, I saw one of our posters. And it just made me excited and happy that they actually, it's being utilized, and everyone seems to really like them. And then when I went inside, I saw even a few more. So yeah, we've been doing a poster for the National Marine Sanctuary's 50th anniversary, and we have one for each site. So I've been illustrating. And when I came in here, it was just really neat to see them. And when we would tell people that I did them, they would be kind of surprised. So it was really exciting to see people's reaction.
Yeah, and we've been walking around the boat and being like, hey, did you know this guy? He's an artist. He made these. And they're like, oh my God, no way, he's on the boat. So it's really cool to know that Matt's art is bringing a sense of camaraderie and peace to people on here, especially when life at sea can sometimes be a little bit hard. So it's nice to be able to have some color around, and it's really cool for Matt to get to see his artwork up close like this when it was completely unexpected. So Matt, why don't you show us your workstation?
Yeah, sounds good. It's this way.
So walk us through your setup here. What do we got going on?
So it's kind of like a cluster right now, but I pretty much have a lot of the tools that I've been using on this cruise and this mission. When we first got into port, I was flying my drone to get some great shots, aerial shots of the Nancy Foster and Woods Hole. I also have been utilizing my camera quite a bit, taking a lot of still shots, but I'm also getting a little bit of video for a project I want to do after this mission. And you can see some of my photographs that I have been taking throughout the last several days. Right here we have the deckhands and launching the ROV. There's someone in the back with a crane lifting the ROV and putting it in the water. So I was trying to get some good shots of that. And let's see what else we have. So we have the scientists inside the wet lab where we are right now. As soon as the ROV would come up, it's really interesting. The scientists would go out and they're very excited to get their hands on the specimens so they can bring them into this wet lab and process these specimens. Right here we see a deep sea coral. Again, and they're doing diligent work. They're making sure that they're documenting everything, and it's just amazing to see the scientists at work. We try to stay out of their way as much as we can, but we also want to get some really good shots. Here we see Adrian he's cleaning off a coral head right now to try to get any biomatter that's not related to the coral. He's trying to get it off of the coral, so it's a pure sample. And here, just like what I was talking about, we have two scientists, Layla and Jen, coming back into the lab after retrieving some specimens from the ROV.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool to think about that. Pictures and photography, they tell a story. And so that's what Matt's doing on this expedition, is he's telling stories through his art, through his photographs and things like that. So actually, let's just point right over here to some of his artwork. This looks like one of the octopus that you've been working on, right? This is some of your... As
a nod to the 1925 mission, 100 years ago, the Arcturus mission. In my downtime, I've been trying to kind of, do a little similar work. When I would see something really cool on the live stream, I would, pause it and take a screen grab so that I could kind of study it and draw it. I'm using colored pencils and ink right here. First, I use pencil to kind of sketch it in exactly what I want. So this one I'm currently working on. And there's a couple others that'll be fun to show you. This one I think you've seen already, but this is a fun one where a crab was hiding underneath an anemone. I just found it humorous. It almost looks like hair to me.
And Matt's been really inspiring people on board to, bring out the sketch pad and start drawing things as well, which, again, is really a nod to the Arcturus mission. We've all been learning about it and has been really excited for this live stream. So we're all kind of contributing in our own ways. And this cool.
This is great. This is
Yeah.
a monkfish. It's also called, what it was called?
Goosefish.
Goosefish or a monkfish. And it was actually really interesting. Just about 5 or 10 minutes ago, the ROV just came up on another one of these monkfish. But I love this one. They really camouflage into the seabed. This one doesn't do justice how well, like, you can barely see them when they're on the seabed.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for showing us around. We're actually going to head back to do some Q&A as well, and we're going to bring back Madeline and Anita to answer any questions the chat might have. Let's see. All right. And we'll just be waiting for Anita and Madeline to join us back in. Let's see. I'll start going through the chat. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you.
So nice to see that back studio area that you have there, Matt. That looks great.
Yeah, he's been working away back there every time. I'm like, Matt, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm drawing. I'm an artist. And I was like, all right, cool.
It's a great lab.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Looks like we have a question for you, Maddie. Someone's asking, this is really great footage. Is the WCS archives accessible to the public?
Yes. So we have this digitized footage that you've been seeing throughout this live stream is available on our website. If you go to library.wcs.org, you can find the archives there, and we have a digital archive section where we've been able to digitize a number of the items in our collection, including some of this great Department of Tropical Research film footage, as well as the illustration collection too. So you can see all of that online.
Cool, thank you. Just looking through the chat, lots of people are loving the connections between history, art, and science, saying that these all go hand in hand with each other. People are really liking the archival footage. So cool, there are artists on the ship. Yeah, we're super happy to have Matt out here. And like I said, he's beyond just an artist, right? He's helping with our communications. He's taking, drone shots, helping our camera crew with any stills or reels that we've been putting together. So a very vital part of the team as well. We got another question. How were the artists able to paint underwater?
That is a great question, and I still have not completely solved this mystery, but I know that they were working on zinc tablets. So they were taking these zinc tablets down there. We actually have an account from another artist who worked with them in Bermuda, Elsie Bosselman. So she writes a little bit about this work, and she talks about creating this sort of like contraption around her waist with all of her paints attached to it, her paint brushes and her paint, so that they're not floating away while she's trying to do her painting. But yeah, they were working on zinc tablets there. As you can see, some of this helmet diving footage of Isabel Cooper during the Arcturus expedition. And I have to say too, I love seeing Matt's work there in the lab. That's very similar to the way that they were working 100 years ago, where the artists were very much integrated with the scientists working. They also had a wet lab and a dry lab on board the Arcturus expedition. And the scientists and the artists both had their spaces there together, working right next to each other.
So cool. This might be a question for Matt or Anita. Do you have to see the animals live to draw them, or can you just remember them in your mind?
That's such a good question. You can do both.
What about you, Matt?
Well, I do like to take a screen grab or draw from a picture, mainly to get the outline accurate and the size and everything. But I can do a lot of the shading and everything based on, I guess, years and years of drawing fish and animals and critters. I can kind of get a good idea of where the light source would be. So yeah, that's what I do.
Cool. This question's cool. Matt, what art medium do you think leads itself to creating marine life best?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What art medium do you think lends itself to creating marine life best?
Well, there's so many different mediums, and they all look very different, I would say. So it's really hard to pick one. I mean, I certainly love watercolor. I love acrylics. Um, I love colored pencils. I love just pen and ink. I mean, they're all so different. And right now, a lot of times, what I do for work is I use a like a drawing pad that's connected to the computer, so that way, if I mess up, I don't have to scrap it and start from beginning, because I work on a lot of deadlines and I have to get art done pretty quickly sometimes.
Cool. This question's cool too. Why do you believe it is important to educate people about the canyon through art?
Well, I think that this is an extraordinary place, first of all, that very few people know about. I think that as an artist, we're able to expose aspects that are not necessarily so easily and warmly received by scientists, nothing personal to the scientists, but it can, in a way, be humanized through art. And I think that in particular, the canyon being such an extraordinary phenomenon right in outside between New York and New Jersey, and so precious to our ecology right now, I do feel that it's a great role for an artist to be able to expose this and invite people to see what's so amazing, the diversity of marine life that this canyon has. For example, very few people know about the amount of sharks and whales and coral is actually right outside of New York. And this discovery is going to bring in all sorts of other information that has not been known. So we have a mission to be able to, as artists, give exposure, I guess is the best word, to this extraordinary place. That's
Yeah, and I'm
beautiful.
even seeing
Look at that.
some people in the chat saying, I love how art can help translate the science for the general public, just as you were saying, Anita. And yeah, just kind of taking a step back and looking at some of this footage we've got. Like, how could you not want to interpret this in any way you see fit? Yeah.
Oh. Again, that looks like a Disney cartoon.
It does. All right. So I think that wraps our questions. I just want to say another huge thank you to Anita and Madeline from WCS and Matt for sharing your expertise with us and really letting us hear from you and your process of just how this Arcturus cruise impacted you all, and kind of just doing this project with you all and learning more and getting to share it with the public has just been so wonderful. So we really appreciate your time for that. And thank you so much.
And thank you. And it's not over. I plan to be invading your data and working with you and hearing much more. And thank you again also to Maddie and the Wildlife Conservation, and to you, Matt, for what you're doing on board. It's really a pleasure to have seen that too. So thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here with all of you and celebrating this.
Well, before I sign off, I kind of want to throw up the live feed real quick and see what we can find. Maybe there's something cool on right now. Let's take a look. And this is actually, oh, look at this. We're collecting some potential sediment sample, looks like. And if you saw the live stream from this past Friday, that's where we kind of broke down the ROV and all the mechanics and what it can do. So this is the manipulator arm that's being controlled from the ROV van. Looking like it's interested in something. You know, we have Dr. Layla Hamden up there kind of calling the shots of being like, I want that, get me that. So that's assuming that's what's going on up there. So I'm not sure what they're interested in, but potentially something. You know, and this is kind of sets us up well for our final live stream, which is going to be this coming Thursday at noon. It'll kind of be a highlights, wrap up, everything that we've kind of done, some celebrations, and honestly, the greatest hits from what we've seen so far on this ROV dive. We've had so many different discoveries of just like cool critters down below, gotten lots of different coral samples and sediment as well. So we're going to kind of take you through the lab, what those samples look like once they've come to land, and hear from another one of our scientists as well. So this is kind of like a good way to end today, is to kind of get you excited to see all of the best hits for Thursday. But I think we'll end it here. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Again, loving to see WCS representing consistently on our live streams. I think I love the shout outs and everything like that. I think this time we've got New York Aquarium again, Bronx Zoo, Central Park Zoo. I saw a few youth, out of school time hub. Maybe that's a school. I don't know. Lots of schools tuning in. We love to see it. Be sure to follow along for the rest of our live stream series. Our final live stream again will wrap this Thursday at noon. We'll also be doing a short ROV dive that day as well, from 8 to noon. So we kind of put that in. It's a change to the schedule, and we hope to see you then. Thanks so much, everyone.